This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Sometimes we have these energetic as hell conversations before we start recording the podcast, and then I just don't even know where to go from there because they have nothing to do with anything we're talking about.
I was wondering what that face was. That you
I was just trying to figure out where to go because, like, we've been having fun now for 20 minutes before starting this, and I'm like looking at the rundown we got here in front of us, and I told Stroz, like, I had a lot of airtime today. I'm exhausted. I'm counting on you to carry me, Stroz. Coming up in about 20, 30 minutes. If you don't know, we're doing a rewatch podcast, and crazy thing, rewatching the old Lions teams has actually made me less hopeful, or more hopeless is probably a better way to put it, about the current Lions. Also, might catch you off guard a little bit. I'm traveling to Washington, D.C. coming up here in a month. Stroz wants to know why. But first, college football landscape changed a lot in the last week. Big Ten, Pac-12, both saying no season in the fall, maybe hopefully season in the spring. ACC, Big 12, and SEC all still hoping to play. We haven't really gotten a whole lot into where we stand with I think we've mostly avoided actual COVID talk. But if you follow me on Twitter, I think you get the pretty good idea, and it's at Brennan Riley _. I think you get a pretty good sense of like where I stand on it. Like I refuse to kill the Big Ten for canceling the fall season. I refuse. Like I'm not going to criticize anybody who says we don't have the confidence we can keep our kids safe, even if it's a PR move, which I know a lot of people believe. But I want to ask the question, and I think we disagree, but I'm not sure. Stroz, you pointed out regionally, we're in very different places and they're handling it very differently. Where you are, the Big Ten canceled it. Where I am, the Big 12 and SEC mostly still plans to play football in the fall. Who's handled it better?
See, I think this is an interesting question. And the reason for that, it's because of how me and you, I think, view everything going on with COVID-19.
I actually think, though, where we stand is very much opposite to where we view it.
No, exactly. And I think that's part of the reason why, because I'm the kind of guy where the moment bars reopened, I was in a bar, basically sitting on somebody else's lap, drinking my drink with no mask on. I didn't care. It didn't bother me. I'm not necessarily concerned about the coronavirus. I'm not necessarily worried about myself getting COVID. I'm worried about the people that I interact with every day, about me giving it to them and how they would take it. But I don't worry about me. And the thing that's messed up is I'm one of those people who they say is more at risk for it because I'm diabetic. So I have an autoimmune disorder. But I don't necessarily worry about it. And I'm not concerned about it. But all that being said, I think if you look at the way the college football landscape is, I think the way the Big Ten, the MAC, Pac-12, I think the way they've handled it is probably the most appropriate because you don't know if you can protect these kids. And that's the thing. It's not like the NFL. It's not like the NBA, not like the NHL. It's not like you have bubbles for college football. You don't have that, okay? And then it's not like Major League Baseball where we'll just kind of take a couple weeks off. We'll suspend parts of the season for certain teams, and then we'll just kind of start over again. No. These are student athletes. They have other things going on besides just playing sports. Like you have to interact with other people on campus. So unless you're shutting an entire campus down, I don't know how you can feasibly think that playing sports at this time with the limited amount of information we have, and I think that's probably the biggest thing and the thing where we get lost the most is there's such little information out there about this entire virus and how it affects you and what it does and ways to actually stop it. To me, it feels like every other day they're changing the rules on it. Like, it'll stick to a surface for a couple days.
I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
Honest question.
Mm-hmm.
How much have you actively paid attention to what we've learned about COVID?
Early on, I paid a lot more attention.
Give me a timeline. Like, is it early on 2 weeks? Is it early on 2 months?
Oh, no. It was probably the first 2 months. I was heavily invested in it. I would read a lot of different things.
By like what? By like May, you were kind of checked out?
Yeah, by May, I was like, I'm done with this.
So what I would tell you is, and honestly, I probably get into this a little bit in the middle segment. I don't know. I'm starting to struggle with it, but I think I have stayed relatively up to date. That's not to call myself an expert by any means.
Well, I will say this: you are probably more in the loop on what's going on now than I am for sure.
Far more in the loop than what you are.
Yeah.
And that's, again, not to call myself an expert, but I've been trying to keep an eye on what we've learned. I don't think the rules constantly change. I think we start with educated guesses, and then some rules change as we learn our educated guesses were wrong. It's very rare we've ever flipped back on that. That being said, again, I will refuse always to criticize the Big Ten or Pac-12 or anyone who cancels a season because they say we don't have the confidence we can keep our kids safe. But the reason I'm actually going to, I guess, say defend the SEC and the Big 12 and the Pac-12 is because I said on this podcast before, I thought the MLB had figured out how we would react to breakouts, and that was, sorry, we're just going to have to do crazy things as we go. I'm going to go a step further now. I think the MLB deserves some credit. You had the major breakout with the Marlins. You had the breakout with the Cardinals. We're a couple weeks removed now from seeing any more breakouts. I'm not saying we're never going to see them again, but I actually think we're starting to realize if people can be responsible, and I know it's a lot to ask of college students, if we're testing people often enough and people are being responsible, I think we can, for the most part, avoid breakouts. Now, I think any college season that starts, or any sports season period for that matter, has to start with the understanding that starting doesn't equal finishing. If we can't stop breakouts from happening in college football, things need to shut down real quick. And I know the sport of football is very different than the sport of baseball, but we did not see any cross-team spreading of COVID from the Marlins or the Cardinals. It's all been within the team. So if SEC schools and Big 12 schools and Big 10 obviously would have had the money too. If the schools have the money to do the things we know they need to do to try and keep these kids safe while they're there, I actually think it's feasible that this could work. And I want to go to the NBA specifically. I understand a bubble's very different. I don't even think you can question a bubble anymore. Like the NBA has shown us, and so is the NHL and honestly the MLS, who MLS had a breakout early on, none since. The bubble works. If you can bubble and you have the right protocol, it works. But there were people who didn't think the NBA bubble would work either. I think we've learned the things you need to do to stay protected. And if we follow them, I do believe we can avoid mass breakouts on college football teams. And I don't believe the expectation should be 0 people catch COVID, because I just don't think that's not the world we live in. Like, unless you're not doing anything but staying home, you're not going to be 0.
Yeah, I don't think that's a realistic expectation, but I also think that you're looking at it from maybe more of a narrow perspective. You can't just look at this as a college football team. You have to look at it from a student athlete perspective. They're going to go to class. They have classes. They've got to interact with other students. Now, I mean, but let's rewind time and let's put me and you both back in college, right? Let's just imagine me and you happen to get lucky enough to have a couple of the same classes at OU. We're both graduates from Oakland University, right? And we had to have had a couple of the same communications classes. Okay, we're different people. The way you and I interact with our fellow students, people that we just meet randomly throughout the day, like we're just different that way. I think you yourself would probably be way more responsible than I would, especially in college. So what are you going to do when there's an Adam in your starting cornerback's class who goes out to the bar, ends up hooking up with 4 different chicks in like 3 nights, then comes back to class?
That person an Adam. That's not an Adam. Let's not pretend that's something you've ever done.
And then he comes back to class. He's got COVID and something else he's got to get a penicillin shot for. And then what's going to happen? You mean the whole class gets it then, right? I mean,
here's what happens, Stroz. Here's what happens. You're testing these kids. You're not pretending you live in a COVID-free world, and you're isolating the kids who have it. And that's what they're having to do in the MLB. It's going to require enough testing. That's one knock on the MLB. Late? The MLB was doing every other day testing. My current understanding is that every college football conference is probably going to be doing everyday testing. And if you're doing everyday testing with same day results, which I'm going to be honest, I don't know if that's the expectation. It's hard for me to believe it's not. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry who's seen where things went wrong in baseball. I don't want to say have to believe. I happen to believe that you're going to test these kids who are going to class, like you said. You're going to find the ones who are sick, and they're not going to go to practice. and they're going to be held out of games. And you're going to have kids who get sick, not playing football, but are on the football team. And I think that there's hope that they can be isolated quick enough. I mean, look at the NFL. The NFL, the Lions haven't had a positive COVID test in some time now. I don't believe the Texans have had a single one in camp, period. I believe that we've learned, there's still a lot to be learned, but we've learned enough about the processes we need to take one case and keep them away from everybody else. And I want to say this. We've learned about it as a country. We could do it as a country. We've chosen not to. If you look at basically every other advanced country, Stroz, COVID isn't a big deal anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It is here. But when you're dealing with multi-billion-dollar industries, they have a playbook for how to make it work. That's basically what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that the college football has a playbook for how to make this work. And not only that, but they've seen where deviating MLB can take them wrong. And I maybe I'm crazy, but I believe we've learned enough to do it right and keep breakouts from happening. And the important thing here is, if you're wrong, then you shut it all down.
Well, you know what? I want to ask you this, okay? Because as we're talking about this, something just popped in my head. Do you think here in the Midwest, the MAC and the Big Ten both canceled their seasons? Do you think that not being able to guarantee that they could have fans in the stands played a part in it? Now, I get that you'd get the TV revenue, and that's a chunk of change.
No, I don't. I think I refuse to buy this idea, and it's probably bigger at college than it in college than it is in the pros. I refuse to buy these ideas that you're not making money. Rutgers might not make money, and Rutgers doesn't have money people in the stands. Rutgers is making money playing football. So why the hell are we saying that you can't make money without fans? You know what I mean?
Right. No, I get it.
There's 30 college football programs, many of them very small. Dude.
But here's the thing too. But here's the thing. You remember when MLB was discussing coming back? A lot of the owners had a hard time. No, I get it.
Shit. They're full of shit. And if you believe them, I don't know what to tell you, man.
No. I'm putting it out there for you, right?
Yeah, I'm garbage. Throw it away. I want nothing to do with it. I'm sorry. I'm talking over you more than I've ever done. This idea, again, college football may be a little bit different. The idea that the MLB or the NFL or the NBA or any of these people aren't making money without ticket sales is garbage. The Miami Marlins threw every single valuable player on their roster away. They sell 3,000 tickets a game, maybe, and they still make money. You know why? Because they know they get it from TV. Nobody needs to walk in the damn door. These are multi-billion-dollar organizations. Ticket sales, you're paying $20 for a freaking ticket. These TV deals are worth billions of dollars. College might be a little bit different. I'm sorry. We probably should have done this in the past. I think it's utter garbage that anybody else would claim it. The reason the MLB had a simple excuse or simple opportunity if they wanted players to take a bigger cut. Show us your books. Prove that you're losing money if we play these games. And they wouldn't do it. Why? Because they're full of shit.
And I agree with you. But there are 32 owners in baseball compared to 14 in the Big Ten. So if you get 8 owners or 8 schools thinking the way that some of those owners were thinking, it becomes one of those things where they're like, all right, just shut it down. Shut it down. We're not going to make the money that we normally would make.
Why is Rutgers ever playing football? Why is Maryland ever playing football?
I don't even know why the hell they're in the Big Ten.
No. Screw the Big Ten. Why are they playing football?
They do make money. They make money. Yes, absolutely.
How are they doing that without selling tickets? Do you think anyone's going to Rutgers football games?
Look, football and basketball, if you don't know, are essentially the two things that bring universities tons. When I say tons, I mean back a Brinks truck up to the university. Tons of money. And the schools basically said, hey, look, we're not having these sports.
Has any small conference besides the MAC shut down?
Not that it's just the MAC that I'm aware of.
Can you explain to me how any of these small conferences, by the way, I would listen. I have no idea. I'm totally open to the possibility that none of these small conferences are making money. But the point is, if they still plan to play, you can't convince me Ohio State versus Michigan, Michigan versus Michigan State, Minnesota versus Wisconsin. You can't convince me that those games without fans aren't making money if you get these small conferences that nobody goes to watch. are still saying we're going to play. I think it's honestly, I think it's less motivation to play because you're making less money, but I don't think that's why. I do think it's a PR move. And I don't really care. If the PR move is we're not confident that, here's what I would say. They're nervous about what happens if you have a breakout. And that's fair. That's justifiable. I'm not going to have a problem with that. And if they were confident they'd make, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe they're willing to risk that PR hit. So if you want to say that it's a contributing factor, sure. I think there's a lot of contributing factors, but I think it's far from the leading one.
And I think that's fair. I think your point is absolutely fair. I was just putting it out there because as we're discussing it, the one thing I will say about universities, especially big universities like the University of Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, when you break it down, it is a lot of times about the budget and about the money and what the schools or what the programs can bring in. I think it was a couple years ago, Michigan State had to cut a couple different programs. I think one of them, part of it was Title IX. The other part of it was they just didn't have the funding. So I think
the funding at big schools like that is a game, man. We didn't have the funding to pay for our lacrosse team, but we had the funding to spend millions of dollars on our workout stations. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sorry, man. Like that stuff is a game at big schools. Yeah. At big schools, that stuff is a game. You can make the numbers look however you want.
I agree with you. I'm telling you what it is, though, right?
You're telling me what they tell you it is.
This is the reality that they say it is.
No. You're wrong word choice, man. It is not you can't say reality. It is what they tell you, and I do not believe them.
I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, like, I get
My
it.
reality, Stroz, is that I'm a billionaire. Do you believe me?
No, I don't. I definitely don't, because I know the company that you work for. I used to work for them too. I know how they used to pay us.
That's what I'm saying. You use context clues to judge whether or not Michigan State can afford to pay for two of their teams.
Look, I totally understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. I'm not fighting you on the fact that the schools have the budget and have the money to be able to do it. What I'm telling you is that this is what they're saying, and it is complete and utter bullshit. I agree with you 100%. I do. But this is what they're going to fall back on, or I'm asking you if this is what they're falling back on as part of their thought process for it. I think part of it's a PR move. I think it's like an onion, right? You start peeling back the layers.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's not just one thing. I think it's a multitude of things as to why the Big Ten, why the MAC are canceling their football schedule. I don't think it's just as simple as, oh, we're not making money. Oh, we can't protect the students. I think it's all of these things. I find it to be crazy that we both live in different areas of the United States. And here in the Midwest, they're like, no, we're not playing. You in the South are like, hell yeah, bring it on. Screw the coronavirus. To me, it's just, it's crazy.
I think it's funny that it's crazy to you because I think it's predictable as hell.
Well,
the Midwest versus the South and who took the COVID more seriously from the beginning. I mean, it's predictable. Michigan was one of the strictest states in the country when they started locking things down. Texas, you guys had closed bars, and I had interns still coming into work. Like, so obviously the Big 12, which has 60% of Texas and Oklahoma make up 60% of the Big 12. Like, obviously we're playing football because we don't take it seriously. You guys did. I think it's very predictable, man.
To me, it shows you the mindset of both of the areas. And I mean, like here in Michigan, most of the rules are still in place where we're still locked down and things are still closed.
We got bars open as long as they serve food.
That's basically what as long as 70% of your revenue doesn't come from liquor, you're allowed to stay open.
I believe stadiums can have 50% capacity. It might be 25.
Shut up, for real?
Yeah, dude, we live in different countries.
Oh, it's crazy to me. That is crazy to me.
We can move.
That was the impetus for this conversation. Was that right there? It was just how different everything is, and we're only a couple 100 miles away from each other.
1,500, almost 2,000. But
okay, cool, whatever.
But the funny thing to me is that it's funny to you. This is incredibly predictable. If you've been paying any attention not as a shot at you, just like I have been, and I'm like, oh, duh, you haven't been.
So here's the thing: when things like pop up, when they show like the hot map of where like COVID is like really, really bad, I always look at Texas because I'm always concerned about you, what's going on with you, right? So I always look at Texas.
Next segment, we're going to get into that.
And then I look at Florida because I got a buddy, Mikey, who lives in Florida. And like those are like the two southern states where I think it's been absolutely madness, like the wild, wild west for sure.
So I want to get one last thing, and we don't have a ton of time. We do need to get moving on here. This is how I believe conferences that play should handle this. I do not believe they will, because I think the NCAA, it just doesn't have the wherewithal to make these kind of decisions. I think if you're going to play, you need to offer students the ability to opt out with guaranteed extended eligibility. I don't want kids to feel forced into playing, period. And so if you say, I'm not comfortable, you get an extra year of eligibility. This will not count against you. Does it create some weird things in college football? Yeah. You'll probably have some players opt out who all of a sudden are sticking around that you weren't planning on. Does the Big Ten get this offer for kids who didn't, who had conferences shut down? It causes confusion. Dude, that's what happens in the middle of a pandemic. I just think, I believe that we can prevent breakouts, but I want kids who aren't comfortable with it to have literally, I want them to keep their scholarships for the year they're not playing, and I want them to have the knowledge that their eligibility will be extended.
I think you have to do right by the student athlete. To me, it is asinine to be able to pull that scholarship or to remove that year of eligibility if they don't play.
I don't think anyone will pull scholarships, but I do think if you have kids opt out, it'll still count against them.
Yeah, which to me is dumb. The NCAA needs to step up and do the right thing.
All right, coming up in about 15 as well. I'm a little bit more hopeless now than I was, I guess, going into our rewatch of old Lions seasons. I'm a little bit more hopeless now than I was then about the current Lions. But first, despite how seriously I've taken COVID, and Stroz, when I say seriously,
by the end of this podcast, you're going to be the guy who is standing in the middle of a hot spot with your mask around your ding dong doing the helicopter dance.
I don't know what the hell you're saying.
That's how you're going to be portrayed at the end of this podcast. You're the guy who's like, yes, we're having football, and yes, I'm traveling, and yes, I'm going everywhere where you're not supposed to.
I mean, if you pay any attention to anything I say, if you know me, you know that's not true. I would say I'm trying to do quick math in my head.
However, I like the image of you being naked with your mask around your wiener. I think that's great.
Can we get into the topic? You're the one who put the image there. It was already there. I think you came to the show with it.
You're working with some good salami sausage down there, just FYI. In my imagination, anyways.
Okay. I would say since early March, I have left my apartment for anything other than work or grocery shopping. I'm going to exclude my trip back home real quick because I drove for that. Excluding that trip, I would say I've been out of my apartment less than 10 times, maybe 12. I do it sometimes. Look, some of this is like I don't know how far into this segment's gonna go, but it's been a real tough mental, emotional year. I lost the job I moved here for in March. My closest friend here moved back to Michigan. My next closest friend here doesn't ever leave the house. He has flat out not left the house since it started. I'm lucky enough to have a couple friends here, really one now that I hang out with, but it's just, I'm limited. I'm very limited. And so I'm not going to never leave the house. I think if we really wanted to, eliminate COVID from America, not entirely, but like these other major countries that are having single digit or double digit cases a day, if we wanted to get to a place where we're back to normal life, we could do it with an enhanced or with an extended lockdown. I just know that that's not the America we live in. And so on some level, I need to keep myself mentally okay. And I think the last couple months have just gotten harder and harder. And so I just need to get out of here, especially weekends. Weekdays, I'm lucky enough to be back to work and I enjoy my job. But I'm in a place right now where my job is the only thing about my life. I mean, the podcast too, but I'm bored. It's not even bored. It's just dude, it's tough,
It's Groundhog Day every day for you.
Yeah. No,
you're Bill Murray.
For me. I want to be clear here. This isn't just a me thing. I know a lot of the country is struggling with this as well, but I think I've felt it building a little bit more over the last month or two. And like full disclosure, like I think the fact that I got like a nice little break from it with that like little fling I had, probably it was like it took me out of this really tough, bored world into like actually having stuff to do while still being relatively safe. Because we didn't go out much. We went out on like 2 dates, and then it was always at my place after that. So it was still like limited group, right? So I'm flying to DC.
I'm gonna need you to get back on Tinder and just start swiping right on everything.
I casually do, man, but it's like I don't enjoy that process. But so like I'm flying to DC. I needed a weekend to get out of here and like have something to enjoy. And you know, my closest friend lives in DC. I honestly really would have liked to go home, but I don't feel super comfortable flying home and staying with my dad.
So you're driving to DC then?
No, I'm flying.
Oh, you're flying to DC.
I am flying, but I'm flying.
Okay.
Basically, I'm saying I don't care if I get my friend Austin sick.
Yeah. But
No, I mean that's not, you know, and like I want to be clear here, you know, Stroz, I'm sure, thinking you've probably seen more of this with the college football stuff, but we're starting to see pretty like significant research that suggests COVID, even in younger people who are going to survive it, causes heart issues.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to say it. Myocarditis. I don't think that's right, but causes heart effect, you know, heart complications. And so like, I still don't think it's, I will flat out explicitly tell you, I think flying right now, unless you absolutely have to, is not smart. I do not think it's a good decision for me. And I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm not comfortable doing it. I'm doing it because like I just feel like I need to get out of here for a little bit. And I'm excited. I am very excited to go do it. Like, you know, it's one of my closest friends. I don't know what the hell we're going to be doing.
Yeah, so you're going to DC and like everything in DC is shut down, right?
Currently, yes. Now, I'm not going till Labor Day.
Okay, so roughly 2 weeks?
Oh, no. That's closer to 3.
3 weeks, okay. I mean, okay, let's look at our crystal ball here. Do you foresee DC relaxing anything in the next 3 weeks?
No, probably
I don't.
Not. No, probably not.
So you're going
to see, even if they did, I'm not sure what all we'd be doing.
So it's true. So you're going to see your buddy. How's your buddy in regards to everything that goes on with COVID? Is he more like you, or is he a little bit more like me?
I think he started more like you.
Okay.
But has shifted a little bit more like me.
Okay. And you said when we were show prepping, you said he lives with his girlfriend, right?
Yeah, who also, by the way, like I love both of them, so I'm excited to see like both of them. I don't actually know where she's at. My guess would she's probably somewhere in the middle as well. I would say both of them are probably in the middle of me and you.
Okay.
Like I don't know that we're gonna go out and get dinner. Like we'll probably walk around. They call it the mall where all the monuments are. So like that'll be kind of cool to experience. But I would say the majority of the time I'm there, we're going to be spending in his apartment. Which, if you don't know about DC, expensive as hell
and small.
I don't think it's very big.
Yeah, it's kind of like living in New York. Here's your shoebox. Pay us $800. Okay, cool. Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
So
except like double it.
Yeah, dude. So this is tough, man. So I'm really interested to see what this does for your frame of mind when you come back, right?
Yeah, no, so you didn't like, and that's the thing. I didn't want to spring it on you, but like we kind of got into it a little bit in the first segment. Like you didn't know why I was going, and like I don't know. I'm not like. Let me say this. I'm okay.
No, I get that. I know where you're at. I understand. You mentioned we talk usually 20, 30 minutes before we do these things, right? And I'm going to be honest with you. Wednesdays and Thursdays, highlights for this guy, sure. Right? I love it. But I'm going to be interested to see how you react when you come back to Houston.
We'll definitely have to break it down because I don't know what the hell we're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the hell you do either because it sounds like everything is super strict in DC right now, and you're basically coming from a place where it is the wild, wild west. It is whatever you want to do, go ahead and do it. So now you're going to go to a place where it's more of a rigid lockdown as opposed to being mildly inconvenienced where you're at now.
I think I am going to take both my Xbox and my Switch.
Is your buddy a video game player?
Yeah. No,
you said his name's Andrew, right?
Oh, was that
Andrew? Right?
Austin.
Sorry.
Honestly, the vast majority of our relationship has like formed over playing video games. We both lived in Grand Rapids for about 3 years of the same time. I knew him for probably 2 of those years. But the vast majority of the time, like, we've known each other, it's been through playing Fortnite together. And we still play video games together a lot. And I don't think he's this person. So, like, it's funny. When we both lived in Grand Rapids, I wanted to go out on weekends. He would have been much more happy just staying home playing video games. But, like, I'm the kind of person who, like, the social interaction is very important. And I'm not getting it right now. I'm literally flying to go, like, be in the same room as the person I'm playing video games with instead of doing it
online. Yeah.
Online.
So here's the thing. I think it'll be good for you. Mentally, I think it's going to be a great mental escape for you. I think that'll be awesome. But I wonder if when you come back to Houston, if it changes your framing on the way you kind of look at things that are going on in Houston.
I mean, I think, to be honest with you, because a similar situation when I went back home before getting this job, it was really, really hard when I first come back. This has been my experience ever since moving out of home. Anytime, like, I leave the real world for a little while, the first, like, week or so back is really, really tough.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I think it's like almost I don't want to say a reset, but in a way it is. You know, it'll buy me a few months. And I think something important to note, like, I didn't pay for this flight. I have a rewards card that I have not once used the rewards points on. I've got probably 3 free flights worth of rewards points.
Holy cow.
So, like, this whole trip should probably only cost me a couple $100. And if I need to do it again in 4 or 5 months, then I'll do it again in 4 or 5 months, whether it's DC or elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. and we just got news today. His schedule changed, so I don't even know if my flight's going to stay the same. I might have to maneuver my flights to make it work. But I don't know, man. Yeah, could you imagine visiting somebody and like not having any idea what you're going to do while you're there?
No. Like, so spontaneity is a weird thing for me, right? So, like, if I'm half inebriated, I'm the most spontaneous person you'll ever meet. But otherwise, I'm so type A. I'm usually way too rigid in my planning. I need to know what's going to happen. I need to know what's going on, where we're going, where we're going to be, who we're going to be with. Like, I usually ask a bajillion questions before we even start to game plan anything. So there's no way I could be in your shoes doing what you're about to do.
I think, like, maybe it's the way I grew up. And I've probably mentioned it on this podcast because it's a big thing for me. I wish adults were more okay with sitting around and not doing anything, just hanging out, like just being in the presence of each other. Because, like, growing up, like, all I did with friends was, like, play video games and hang out. Like, and it's not even like I'm not a serious gamer. The gaming is just like the thing we're doing while we're hanging out. It's like it's the same as watching a game together. Like, I don't need to really be doing anything. Towards the back end of my time in Grand Rapids, sometimes I'd go over to this guy's house and we would just, like, watch streamers, like, people play Fortnite, just because, like, I needed to be, like, in the same room with people, and he preferred chilling at home to going out. Like, I had friends come visit me in Houston before all this went on, and they wanted to go. And, like, it was fun. But to be honest with you, I just found myself at times being like, I just want to chill. Like, because I guess for me, when you're go, doing things, you're enjoying the things, but you're not always enjoying the company the same way.
I got you. That makes sense.
If we're just chilling at home, like, I'm not here to enjoy DC. Like, I'll go see the monuments and that'll be cool, but, like, I'm not going to DC to see DC. That's just not why I'm going. I'm going to see my friend.
I got you. When you frame it like that and you put it like that, I totally get it. You know,
I know it's abnormal. You know, even like when I went to Seattle, like, when I vacation, obviously I was there by myself, so I was doing things, but I also was spending a lot of time just chilling. Like, there were times I just sat at a park for an hour just because, like, I'm not enjoying it if I'm going all the time. This segment was way different than I think either of us expected it to be.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll probably have to check in after the trip. Do you have any other thoughts or questions you wanted before we move on?
Yes. Does your friend Austin's girlfriend have a girlfriend who will be available for some company for B?
So I'll tell you what. I think his girlfriend would love nothing more than to hook me up with somebody, but I doubt that she's got those kind of friendships in DC. They moved there mid-pandemic.
Oh, okay. Maybe she's a social butterfly. Fingers crossed. I love how we're always looking to get B later.
No.
At least get B hooked up.
You are always looking for that.
Always. It's a good thing we don't live in the same city together.
All right. Are we good?
We're good.
How long? Was that a pre-planned question?
No, that just kind of happened.
Just an important one that hits you in the moment.
Yeah. I've been sitting on it for like the last 4 minutes, but yeah.
All right. We've been rewatching the Lions. We watched all the 2011 season, all the 2012 season, and we just finished the first 2 games of the 2013 season. That episode will be out on Sunday, sometime around noon. But Stroz, I've had this realization that from 2000, let's say post 0-16. So what? 2009?
Yeah.
From 2009 until probably last year, I've gone into every Lion season with at least a semblance of hope. And honestly, even last year, some level of hope. And we watched a lot of those Lions teams under Jim Schwartz not be anything special, under Jim Caldwell not be anything special. But I think at least under Jim Schwartz, I'll have to like relive the Caldwell era. But I think under Jim Schwartz, what we're seeing is we were right to feel like, or at least I was. I don't know where you were at. But like going into 2012, I thought the Lions were a playoff team. Going into 2013, or at least contenders. Going into 2013, I thought the Lions were playoff contenders. I thought those teams were better. They were more talented than their performance level. But because that was so long ago, I was younger. I was a very immature Lions fan. I had this thought maybe that I just like misremembered things. And like a realist would have thought, nah, these teams were never that good. Well, I'm going back and I'm watching it now, and I'm saying, no, Stroz, we were right. I was right. Let's answer this. 2012, 2013, going into the season's ballpark, do you think you had thought they were playoff contenders?
Playoff contenders for sure, especially after that offseason that they had between 2012 2013.
Well, we didn't recognize how good it was back then.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered liking Glover Quinn. I remembered liking Jason Jones, but not.
I remember liking the Reggie Bush signing, bringing him in. That one. You know, I thought they did a really good job, and I'm interested because I think looking back, when you're in the moment, you think that they're a playoff contender, right? But like we're watching these games now with hindsight being what it is, and we both agree those are very good teams. Martin Mayhew put together some really good teams.
In 2012, they went 4-12.
Yeah.
And I'm watching that team, and I'm saying if you put the 2012 Lions in the first 8 weeks, I want to make sure that part's clear, because after week 8, they had a billion injuries. But like the first 8 weeks of the 2012 Lions season, if you put it up against the current Lions team, I would take the 2012 Lions by a long shot. And I'm like thinking positional breakdown, right? Like I look at it defensively. The defensive line of the 2000 teens, significantly better. The linebackers, significantly better. The safeties, significantly better. The corners, I would absolutely, unquestionably give the nod to, I guess, I'll even step back on safeties because they just signed Glover Quinn for 2013. But like, I don't have any faith. If I look at the Lions defense, what position are you confident in?
Quarterback?
Defense.
Oh, defense. Shit, man. Jeff Okudah better be something special.
I think the corners will be fine. I think the Lions corners will be fine, and I think they'll be better than those teams that we're currently rewatching. But that's
about it. Yeah.
That's it. And the front seven of these 2012 and 13 specifically were really damn good.
So here's a question for you. Do you think that this is more being a victim of the moment? Like we're stuck in this moment right now. We're looking at this team the way it is currently constructed. We know what Matt Patricia has given us these previous 2 seasons. So you're a victim of being right where you're at now. Whereas with those prior teams, you have hindsight to see. I mean, because going into it, you didn't know Darius Slay was going to be a Pro Bowl player. You thought maybe he was going to be good.
Here's the thing, Stroz. The reason it makes me more hopeless is because going into those seasons, I thought those teams were good. And I think that my read was correct. I think those teams, they had their flaws that maybe I didn't recognize. But overall, they were better than they performed. That 4-12 team probably should have been at least an 8 or 9 win team. I look at these Lions, and I genuinely believe Matthew Stafford is the only thing that makes them capable of scratching and clawing to 9 or 10 wins. I like the offense for the most part, but I don't think it's special, and I think the defense is underwhelming as hell. I already didn't have hope about this team, but watching these teams that had bad records, it makes me recognize, like, dude, I'll say this. I think going into the season, this is one of the weaker rosters that, I don't know. The one thing I might not be giving enough credit to is the offensive line. The offensive line now is probably a fair amount better than 2010s. But even then, man, I don't know. I watch this stuff, and I would much rather rewatch 2012 Lions. Like, I think that's a better roster. I think if you put them on the field.
Let me try to give you a little glimmer of hope here. I think the running back core that you have now is something to watch with a keen eye and could be special.
We just watched Reggie Bush and Joik Bell.
Mm-hmm. And they were very good.
There's no way DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson beats what we just watched.
I think DeAndre Swift being the unknown here. Look, I wasn't a fan of Kerryon Johnson before. I'm not a fan of Kerryon Johnson now, but I think DeAndre Swift could change that position group. I think he could make it that much better.
Is Kerryon Johnson, is Javid Best, is Mikel LaShore, is Kevin Jones, is Kevin Smith.
He's every other Lions running back we've ever had.
But they're all second, third round draft picks. Like, I know I'm not one to cross regimes, but I don't need to cross regimes because this regime took a second round running back.
I can't even argue you on
it. And here's the thing. I'm not telling you DeAndre Swift's bad. I just refuse to believe a second round running back is changing your franchise.
But does it make you feel any better though that he, like, going into last year's draft, he was the highest rated running back? And the experts are the experts.
I said that back in the draft. The one thing that made it stomachable for me is that he was the highest rated running back pretty much by consensus. You know what, Stroz? I didn't recognize this till now. You know why I'm more hopeless? I'm more hopeless because even I thought Matthew Stafford was worse in the 2010s than he's been. Like, I thought he got too much crap, but I'm going back and I'm watching this stuff, man. And 2012 Matthew Stafford was dragging a roster with Brian Robisky. What the hell is his name? Mike Thomas and Sean Chappis on the receiving
core. That was it, Sean Chappis.
And they were leaving.
I wanted to be like Clint Capella, but he's a basketball player.
They were losing games, but he looked so good. And that is the one thing that you can sell me on, the truth. And it's not a lie. Matthew Stafford is a lot better now than he was then. But when I watch what he did back then and go, shit, he was still pretty freaking good back then. I don't know what about this team makes me feel better. The receiving core is not better. Their defense isn't even close. Their offensive coordinator is one major hotspot. But it's hard to watch these games and feel hope about the current Lions.
Let me try to frame it for you like this. If you look at last season, right? Last season, they were in quite a few close games, and they were doing it with second, third, and fourth string quarterbacks. If Matt Stafford comes back healthy, guarantee you they win at least 3 or 4 more games. I think Matt Stafford is that much better than what you had in their last season. Does that help get you a little bit more excited?
No, because I don't disagree. I'm not telling you the Lions are going to be a 3-win football team. I'm trying to go back and look. I don't remember last year being as close as you do. This is not the right schedule, is it? Oh yeah, here we go. When did Stafford go down? Do you remember?
I think it was game 7 or 8.
I don't even know if this is the right line schedule. Somehow I ended up on Bing instead of Google.
So I think it was 7 or 8. I can pull up the schedule real quick. Go ahead, make your point, though.
My point, I was trying to see if they were constantly, and they were a little bit closer than I remember. I'm not telling you they're a 3 or 4 win football team, but I'm watching these teams that a 4-win team can still be a pretty damn good football team. It's possible because 2012 was. And I look at this team and say, man, 8, 9 wins. I can't see more than it against. They're not going to beat good football teams. And I know they stayed close against the Chiefs. I know that. And Stafford might steal 1 or 2, but you're also going to give up 1 or 2 that you shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And I want you to know, I'm not hopeless. I'm not same old Lions hopeless. I just don't think that there's anything on this roster that's impressive.
All right, so Matt Stafford goes down. Stafford goes down.
This too, by the way, is Matt
after
Patricia.
Yes, for sure. Matt Stafford goes down after the Oakland loss. He goes down somewhere in the Oakland loss. So Driscoll takes over week 10.
They lose by a touchdown. They lose by a touchdown. They lose by a field goal. They lose by 4. 2 touchdowns. A touchdown and a field goal. It was close in that you were within a possession, but welcome to the NFL.
No, I get that. But again, look at what your quarterbacks were doing. Though.
Yeah, but they won 3 games, Stroz. Give them 4 more wins. It's 7.
But I get it. I know.
Give him 5 more wins. It's 8. Give him 6 more wins. You're still not in the damn playoffs.
And look, this is my whole thing when it goes back to all the conversations we have about Matt Patricia still being here and Bob Quinn still being here. When it's all said and done, they're going to win just enough games to not be relevant, but for those two boobs to keep their jobs.
I really think there were 2 things. There were like breaking this down, wrapping this up, because I hadn't thought it through to a finalized product. There are 2 reasons I am more hopeless. One is because I now trust my gut feeling more by going back and watching these teams and seeing my gut feeling was right in the first place. And 2, because I expected to go back and watch Matthew Stafford and say, okay, maybe I defended him a little bit too much early on in his career. And I'm actually coming out of it the opposite way. I'm kind of doubling down and saying, nah, this man was pretty incredible. He had his rough moments, but as a whole, he was pretty incredible early on in his career too. I think those are the 2 reasons that I find myself more hopeless about this Lions season.
I think the one thing that should give you hope is Matt Stafford comes back healthy. He's a game changer for this team. Obviously, he's the best player on this team. Even with him being as beat up as he's been the last 2 seasons and getting older every single year, I think adding a couple pieces on defense, and I don't know how good those pieces are going to be. They're all New England retreads. There's a reason why New England didn't want them, but they come here, and if they buy into Patricia's system, it could work. And look, man, I am not a Lions slap at all. I usually bury this team. I'm right there with a shovel and a sledgehammer to pound down that dirt as tightly as I possibly can so I can throw more dirt on top of that grave. I'm just trying to help you out here, man. I don't want you to be sad.
Well, I'm like, look, when the season comes and it's not that far away, I'm going to be ready to watch, and I'm going to be watching. I might be watching on delay. I think I'm probably going to try and watch the Texans first, but I'm still going to watch every single Lions game. And I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't believe in this team, and there's really not a whole lot else to it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I really don't blame you.
So basically, wrapping this all up, don't do a Lions rewatch.
Let us do it for you. Tune in every Sunday, sometime around noon, right here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network and anywhere else you get podcasts.
All right, that sounds like a good way to wrap it up to me if you're good.
I'm good.